folks, and welcome to the Marshfield School Committee meeting on Tuesday, October 10th. Mrs. Buzerski, if you could please call the roll.
Mrs. Dargan?
Here.
Mrs. Stetson? Here. Mr. Guerre?
Here.
Mrs. Brady? Here. Mr. Costello?
Here. Please rise and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And you can please also join me in the Peace Builders Pledge. I am a peace builder. I pledge to praise people, to give up put-downs, to seek wise people, to notice and speak up about hurts I have caused, to right wrongs, to help others. I will build peace at home, at school, and in my community each day. Under the open meeting law, I'm informing the public that this meeting is being videotaped by Marshfield Community Media. If anybody else is taping this meeting, either audio or video, please notify us of such at this time. Seeing none, we'll hop right into our spotlight on excellence with our fantastic team from Furnace Brook Middle School. So I'll recognize you, Principal Kevin.
Great. Hello. Thank you. I'm going to bring up an extra chair because I have some friends with me tonight. I'm
Awesome.
very excited that Mrs. Lisa Lynch, my assistant principal, is here with us, as well as Stacey Shanahan, one of our amazing teachers and theater coach, and Teresa DeLuca, infamous for our school librarian, and lots of other things. So let me see. So we did put together a slideshow, and one of the things as we brainstormed, I lost Mrs. Lynch, what to share tonight. One of the things we decided, which is relevant for the first 6 weeks of school, is some exciting changes we did to help support our grade 6 students. So some of the feedback, we do surveys in the spring and in the fall for our students over the past couple of years. And just informal observations, talking with parents, talking with students, talking with a lot of our teachers. And we recognized that we wanted to do some more focused instruction on executive functioning skills. Anyone that spends any time with middle schoolers, and since I have a few middle school parents in front of me today, you all know that that is a struggle that a lot of them face, as well as just middle school tools. You'll hear about what that is in just a few minutes, and some social emotional supports. So we were gifted in the very end of the school year. Dr. Martin called me and asked if I would like to have a computer science teacher. Anyone that knows, we have not had a computer science teacher in grade 6 for the past couple of years. We were so excited. With that came some struggles looking at our schedule, but I have an amazing teacher who is creative, and she has a scheduling brain that I don't have. Miss Casey White had come up with some ideas on better meeting the needs of our kids. And she had pitched it a few times to me last year, but we didn't have the right staffing. And then with getting Mr. Cook as one of our computer science teachers, we were able to put it in fruition. So Miss White and Mrs. Shanahan have been my thought partners on this, and you're going to hear a little bit more from Stacey Shanahan on what we're doing. With these changes, we were able to give kids in grade 6 have art twice a cycle all year. In the past, our parents have 7th grade students, they would have it every other day for half a year. Now our students will have it twice a cycle for a full year. They have 6th grade computers, twice a cycle for a full year. We have built-in time for iReady math. Part of what we need to do with iReady, they need 45 minutes a cycle, a week, I should say, to really have the sweet spot to get the iReady experience for my pathway. So this is built, they have this in their schedule once a cycle all year. They have an amazing experience with Mrs. DeLuca, you can hear about in just a few minutes. So our kids have not had direct instruction in the library just because it didn't fit in their schedule. We were able to fit that in. And then they have literacy, which Mrs. Shanahan is going to talk about in just a few minutes, and they'll have that twice a cycle for term 1 only. So this is an example of a student's schedule for grade 6. This is different for grade 7 and 8. So they still have English every day, math every day, social studies, science every day. They have music just like any other grade every other day all year. But then as you can see, art's built in. They have the literacy class built in this quarter. The second quarter, third and fourth quarter, they'll have project-based English. Say let's student, Mr. Greer's son will have, I don't know exactly, I didn't look at his schedule, but he might have project-based English every day, quarter 2, then project-based math every day, quarter 3, and then health every day, quarter 4. So you can see where it kind of fits into their schedule. Now Stacey's going to talk about literacy.
So literacy is a term 1 only class for our 6th grade students, and it allows us to hyper-focus on 3 major things: executive functioning, middle school tools, and some SEL supports. Pulling this out term 1 then allows the project-based English teacher, which is also myself, the project-based math teacher, and the health teacher to be on cluster during 1 term for each of the 3 clusters. So we share the literacy class. So like Vikings kids will say have me day 1, Mrs. Kearns day 2, and Mrs. Woodard day 3. Then they'll have me day 4, Mrs. Kearns day 5, Mrs. Woodard day 6. And they cycle through us for literacy. And when Casey and I designed the curriculum for the class this summer, we tried to play to each person's strengths. So Mrs. Woodard, who's the health teacher, is doing the lion's share of she's doing the middle school hygiene. It was so nice to be able to start the year strong with all of those hygiene learning objectives for our changing bodies with the middle schoolers. And doing the bullying and the upstanders, lots of focus on that from her. Mrs. Kearns, who's the project-based math teacher, is doing a lot of math-focused skills that they need. And then I'm the project-based English teacher, so I'm doing a lot of the English-based things. We're able to play to each teacher's strength and focus on some of these executive functioning middle school tools we call Aspen, Canvas, all the Google tools.
And then also on our schedule is Mrs. DeLuca, who put together.
Just 2 seconds.
Yep.
So since this is the first time we've had this class, the basis for the class is the Massachusetts Library Association's standards. And within them, it's all information literacy. Basically, how do you formulate the right question, use the tools to get the answers, and then to present it ethically and in a way that should matter and make the most impact. So, these. And it was really fun to design the syllabus, to include all those things, starting with what I thought would be the gentlest and most important, just an intro to what tools we're going to use, and then we're going to be building on such things as how to be a good teammate and a partner when you're doing collaboration, and skills that they need to understand why it's important to build your reputation so people want to work with each other. So in this very quick little video, you'll see something about that reputation thing, which I just need to speak to that. So that's why we included it. Oh yeah, sorry. Good catch. Okay.
There we go.
So you'll learn how to get quality answers to questions that you have by using a variety of tools, but you'll be able to share what you learn ethically first. We'll be encouraging curiosity. Regarding, you guys might recognize those, Mexican jumping beans, that's a reward for the students who had the best behavior and participation. Research skills. And this is the part where I was saying you'll learn to have a great reputation. We have to build each other's trust and get to know each other well. So we, every week, have a certain day or two that we build on those skills. And you'll learn to gather and present information ethically. But Fridays are for reading. We started off the little Star Books action, or cafe. They got to sample some great tasting books, and then they could put their opinions on their placemats about what they thought of them. And And all of this is part of our standards for Massachusetts.
Thank you. So there's just a little video, and what I love about the experience is that all of us sixth graders are getting a common experience. So all of the students, whether they're a Vikings, an Anchor, or a Starfish, have Stacy to do her portion of literacy, and Tammy to do her portion of literacy, and then Kate Woodard to do their portion. Kate Woodard, who's our health teacher, has already invited Officer Hearn and myself and Lisa to go up and do discussions on healthy relationships and bullying, which has been a great experience for the kids to ask questions and to kind of build from their growth, build their knowledge and grow. But this is all of this, every sixth grader, doesn't matter which cluster, have the exact same common experience, which I think is really important. So, thought it'd be important to highlight that for our kids. Well, that's awesome.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I am the only person on this side of the table who is not a middle school parent.
We talked about that today. That's
So,
okay.
Mr. Granatino and I were on an island here, so if anybody has any questions or comments, go right ahead.
Mrs. Juliet and Mrs. Shannon, this is more a comment to the two of you, and even though my child is in 7th grade, in 6th grade, you both played a really big positive role in her experience. So just thank you for that.
Any other questions, comments?
I echo Kendall's comments. Thank you. It was really nice to talk to Mrs. Shannon this summer, and she checked in with me to see how Jace was. I appreciate that.
I love the Friday read day.
And I go every Friday, so like, yes, it's Friday. And that's what I want them to feel too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
They do.
And if I could just, first of all, thank you for doing this. Thank you for getting feedback and making some adjustments to help our sixth graders. What are some of the things that you're looking for as far as ways in which you're assessing the success, or if there's other parts of the program that might need to be tweaked down the road?
Yeah, I think some of that will just be feedback from students. We can tweak our survey for sure, and what we ask the kids. And I think a lot of their struggles were, they come in and their standards-based report cards in elementary, and they are like, what is a letter grade? Like, they don't always understand that. So those types of things have been positive for parents and for kids, because we're sharing that. And I think, even we talked about how just the literacy teachers, as well as Teresa, John Cook, tweaking what the kids' needs are, because they will tell us what they need help with, for sure. They ask for more information on, on the bullying and just what is cyber. There's a lot of curiosity about cyberbullying and appropriate relationships through group texts and those types of things, which, they're not embedded in our standards, but they are a reality of our students' lives.
I just wanted to add, I'm the theater club advisor here, so I see the 6th, 7th, and 8th graders all 3 years in that capacity. And then my daughter is currently a senior over at the high school. And so in different conversations that we've had about this new literacy class, and the 7th and 8th graders, and even the high schoolers have asked questions about it, and the overwhelming response has been, oh my God, I wish we had that when I was in 6th grade. Like they see the value of it in the high school and in the 7th and 8th grade, that if they had had this time to hyper-focus on all of this needed information, that it would have made them feel so much more set up for success as a 6th grader.
And I think a lot of our teachers at the beginning of the year spent a lot of time having the 6th graders organize Google Docs. And how do you use Canvas? How do you even get into Canvas and never mind use it? I think some elementary schools use it, but not as consistently as secondary does. And so the teacher's feedback is like, oh, that's great. Let's take that off our instruction time, give it to this class. And we call it literacy because that was kind of already in place, and they're working a lot of literacy skills. We think we're going to probably tweak the name next year a little bit, so because it's not all literacy we're working, but everything we do is literacy.
But I would, you're probably going to do this, but I would suggest that, look at the number of nurse visits, look at, attendance in school, those things are obviously discipline referrals.
Yep.
I think when students feel more comfortable with their environment, we have a lot a lot fewer of those things that crop up. So that's the way to look at the success.
Agreed. There's lots of data points we can look at. We actually, I don't know if anyone noticed, but when you come in, we do attendance every day.
See that.
So sixth grade continues to have the best attendance so far. That's not necessarily directly related to this, but it is about feeling comfortable in the school and what can we do to make them feel like they're part of Curtis Brook and not just, Ames Way, Martinson, in our 5 great elementary schools, but to kind of have them be successful as a grade and transitioning in. It's a big change, but our kids are doing amazing with it, so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome, thank you so much. Okay, we're going to move on now. I'll take the student representatives next and get you guys out of here.
So the first elementary school we got in Webster. So today they had a pumpkin free run fundraiser. So they have it in their PE class and their goal is to reach 500 laps to come down money with it. And then they have picture day coming up this week. And for Amesway, they have a Plymouth, Louisiana field trip today, which is for the 3rd grade. Governor Winslow, they have a regular week this week, but they're getting ready for picture day next week. Similar for South River, they have a regular rest of the week, but they had 5th grade band instruments today. And lastly, they had Martinson, Project Beach begin today. They have a 5th grade field trip to the Edward Kennedy Institute later this week. And last week, from their Goal fundraiser, they raised over $700. So that's awesome.
A little bit more for FEMS and MHS. For FEMS, the parent-teacher conferences will take place on the 16th and the 21st. Some of the band members are attending the BSU Middle School Honors Band program this week. The FEMS track team took their first place overall at their recent meet. The boys won 24-33 against Plymouth South, and the girls won 50-15 against Silver Lake. The 8th graders were given a presentation on the South Shore Vocational Technical School, and there will be an open house on October 21st if people are interested. There will be a 3v3 basketball tournament and a blood drive for Boston Children's Hospital, both inspired by Patrick McLaughlin, on October 21st at the Boys and Girls Club. And then for the high school, the varsity boys and girls soccer team and the girls varsity volleyball team all tried their best but sadly lost this past Friday and Saturday. However, the varsity football team won 41-0 in their homecoming game this past Saturday. The homecoming dance this past Saturday was a great success with the help of Key Club. Sumin Jiang and Penny Barber were both crowned as royals for the homecoming dance. There will be a parents' night out on October 14th to raise funds for the class of 2025. The golf team had their senior night tonight against Plymouth South, and the boys varsity soccer team just won 5-2 against Plymouth South, and the girls sadly lost tonight. So sad. And the girls field hockey team celebrate their senior night tomorrow at 6:30.
What's going on?
Okay, well,
Who's
that's not
dying?
mine.
That record.
My friend told me that they lost.
Everyone.
I don't know. I
She did do a lot of headers, maybe she was feeling a little.
I know. I was like, she was listening. She was like, oh, I'm like, okay. Well, they won.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thanks, gang.
Appreciate it. I'm gonna move some things around. We're gonna move informational to the end. And we'll take old business at the end as well, because I really want to get into what I think is one of our, what's that? Oh, thank you so much. We've reached the point of the meeting for public participation. If anybody else would like to address the meeting, please come forward. There is no member of the public here. Seeing none, we'll move forward. I think that one of the most valuable presentations we have all throughout the year is Mary Beth Battis with the Youth Risk Behavior Survey. So I'll invite you forward now to do that. Mrs. Battis.
That's one of my favorite things.
Good evening. So let me give you a little bit of background. So we've been doing a youth risk behavior survey for over 20 years in Marshfield. We have no data for 2 years because of COVID. But I think the most important thing for everyone to understand is our data is from grades 7, 9, and 11. Grade 7, this was the first year we actually did the majority of students. We combined health and phys ed and did it in both. Grade 9 is a semester, so it's half of the 9th graders and half of the 11th graders. People try to compare our data to state and national data. It's virtually impossible. You can look at it. However, Massachusetts takes grades 6, 7, and 8 and reports that as a middle school figure. And so does the CDC when they do the national data. They take grades 9, 10, 11, and 12. We pull it out, we don't combine them. Does that make sense? Okay. So the first thing, I'm just going to give you a brief overview of some of the things that we've looked at in past years to give you an idea of where we are. We always look for 3 years worth of trends. We take this information and all the health teachers and everybody in our, within the comprehensive health department gets together and we talk about this information. How does it work with what we're teaching? Are there different trends? Is there something we should add or take out? So years ago, we obviously took out smoking and added vaping. So have you ever vaped? And actually the vaping numbers have been trending downward. Vaped in the past 30 days. So when we're looking at this, we're looking at, have you vaped recently? We always ask, we always do our survey in the month of May. So it's towards the end of their grade. So the black number towards the right is the current year. The middle number is 2022, but the far left is 2019. So this is pre-COVID to after COVID data that we can actually look at right now. So pre-COVID, I think we all would have agreed that vaping had increased dramatically. It's starting to trend down. 30% of our 11th graders have vaped in the past 30 days. So we're still having our students that are in older grades doing some of our risky behaviors, and that's consistent across the country. Have you ever tried marijuana? Now, this is an interesting data point for me. We thought a few years ago when they legalized marijuana that this was just going to skyrocket. It hasn't. So when we look at this, 15% of our 9th graders tried, but 47% of our 11th graders. What we're really looking at with this number is delay, delay, delay. If we can delay the age at which they start using alcohol, marijuana, any drugs, we're at less risk for any of our kids to become addicts. So that's the point in looking at that number. Used marijuana in the past 30 days, and as you can see, all of these numbers are trending down. I shouldn't say all, 7th and 9th. The 11th graders did go up a little bit. So we're going to start looking at trends for 3 years, as I said before. Okay, alcohol use. We know that alcohol is a drug of choice for our students. It has been, it continues to be. So have you ever tried? 19% of our 7th graders, 35% of our 9th graders, and 77% of our 11th graders. This is consistent. It's interesting to note, though, where the parents present and underage drinking occurred in the past 30 days. When we look at this, our 7th and 9th graders, most of them aren't going to parties where the parents knew it was happening. But our 11th graders, 36% were at a party where the parents knew it was happening. So when you look at, had 1 or more drinks in the last 30 days, 64% of our 11th graders had alcohol in the past 30 days. So this is some of the information that we want to share with the community to partner with us to hopefully decrease those numbers. But again, it's nothing that's earth-shattering different for us. It's consistent. Okay, so here's safety numbers. These are the ones, and I'll say it again, Sean, because I say it every time I come here. These are the numbers I would love to have 0% by the time I retire. I'm not sure it's going to happen now. So felt unsafe in school. 13% of our 7th graders, 9th grade was 6%, and 4% in 11th grade. So I have to give Maureen credit. So we're going to start looking, I think this is one of the points that you guys can start looking at over the past over the next couple of years. Does that 6th grade program change some of these data points? And I hope it does. And this is a huge one. So in school, is there at least one teacher or other adult in this school that you can talk to if you had a problem? We know that when kids feel a connection in our building and have relationships, they're going to perform better. So this is one of the questions that we took directly from the CDC, but then years ago, we actually added outside of school, is there an adult that you can go to if they have a problem? The majority of our kids do, but we want them to have somebody in the building. So when you look at that 7th grade number at 54%, I would hope next year that's a little bit higher because they made a big connection with those 3 people, those 3 teachers in that 6th grade leadership literacy program. 9th grade and 11th grade, I would really hope that those numbers would be higher because of our advisory, where they're doing small group work with different teachers and people within our building. So it'd be interesting to see if after we have 3 years worth of data, do those change a little bit too. And then, so have you been bullied at school this year? So our 7th grade numbers have been trending upward. We do put clearly on the survey what bullying is. Our 9th grade numbers have decreased a little bit, but I think for me the interesting one was our 11th grade, which increased. We've consistently had lower numbers for 11th grade. We usually don't see bullying issues with our kids that are higher grades. Now what's interesting about this as well is that the new Massachusetts frameworks actually take into consideration some of the skills we want our kids to learn so that these numbers hopefully will decrease. And that's conflict resolution, how to be more assertive, how to be more proactive. Who are the people in your building and within our state that you can reach out to if you have any issues or concerns? So hopefully, we're actually have shifted already prior to this, we had shifted our 6th grade curriculum to look more at communication skills, especially assertiveness and conflict resolution and conflict management. And I will tell you, we've already started having conversations within the health, with the health teachers about adding conflict resolution then to grade 8 and even to grade 11. So now that you're looking at different issues with conflict, how do you deal with it? So it's not around bullying, but it's about a number of different issues that people are going to have to deal with in life.
Mary Beth, I'm sorry to interrupt. Those bullying, that bullying definition, does it include cyberbullying?
Yeah.
It does, okay, so that would be on school property cyberbullying as well.
Yes. That's the, I want to say to you guys though, that that number is within the full year. Most of our other data points are, have you ever tried or in a 30-day period. So this specifically asks full year. Okay. Mental health, oh my arrows came up early, sorry. According, I think we all know that there was a significant increase in kids with mental health concerns after COVID. So the definition that's on the YRBS is have you felt sad or hopeless for 2 weeks or more. So 7th grade decreased, 9th grade decreased. We had an increase of 45% of our kids reported that they did feel sad or hopeless. That was an increase of 5%. Then we take a look at, did you create a plan? This is an important question for us because we know that kids that create a plan, it increases the probability, not the likelihood, probability of a successful attempt. Then when we look at considered suicide, we have over 20% when you look at our 11th grade, again, that number is slowly increasing where our other numbers had decreased. But when you look at this too, I want you to look at 9th grade. We typically have these years where there's a spike and then we'll go down low and then all of a sudden it will spike again. And for whatever reason it is, whether it's that group of kids, whether there was an issue that happened that year, was there something going on last May? But again, this is why I would tell you, I think it's extremely important for us in 11th grade to really give our kids the stress management skills and practice that they need, as well as that conflict resolution skill. Like how do you deal with that so they don't feel that hopelessness that some of these kids are feeling. So getting good grades and time continue to be what stresses our kids out most at school and outside of school. This has, since the first time we added this question, which I believe was 8 or 10 years ago, it's continued to be the number two things that contribute to their stress.
Is that multiple choice or can they fill it in?
There's 4 of them, Sean. It's that. It's getting good grades, relationships, time, and there's one more, and I forget what it is.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Thank you.
There's one that's other, it's not family. We actually took that off because it wasn't one of the ones. There is an other. Yeah. When we go back, and I always try to follow up with the kids afterwards, and I'll say, this is what the data came back with. What do you mean by time? And it's time overall. It's time with schoolwork, with homework, with outside activities, inside activities, expectations from parents. They put all of that together. And getting good grades is also the expectation of getting a good grade. So it's not just them putting that on themselves, it's external as well.
Thank you.
Yep. So sexual activity, have not had sexual intercourse. I actually put this on here because I think some of you may have heard, and especially on the news, they're reporting that our new frameworks are the new sex ed curriculum. It's actually not. The new frameworks that have been adopted include mental health, physical health, social and emotional well-being, as well as goal setting, healthy relationships. So there's a small component that talks about it. So the majority of our kids haven't had sex. 92% of our 7th grade, 91% of 9th grade, 66% of 11th grade. We do have, and this was approved years ago by school committee, we do talk about pregnancy prevention. Our #1 strategy is always abstinence, but we do, it's literally half a lesson about preventing sexual activity, preventing pregnancy. Thank you. So more students reported they have not had sexual intercourse over the, that continues to grow. And actually, that was one of the good things that came out of COVID, because they weren't having relationships, so.
They were socially inept.
That's funny. Okay. Any thoughts or questions? So that's such a brief summary. There's actually about 48 questions on the survey that we asked, that we looked through and looked at. And I would say that I think there's a few specific questions that Maureen and her administrative staff can actually really look at over the next few years and see if that impacts, they can impact that with that 6th grade program. I know that Kate Woodward is doing a lot in that literacy. She's the health teacher, and she spent a lot of time on not just what bullying is, but how to deal with it, case studies, acting it out, being assertive, and really speaking up for others. So hopefully they all get that at the beginning of 6th grade, but then she's going to reinforce it throughout the curriculum when she meets with them again.
And all of this data, I'm just saying, I think you guys already know this, but it's on our website. It's under the main page, under our information, and it goes back actually to 1996. This
Yes.
data. IBS. Obviously, some of the questions have changed, so they don't go back as far, but you get a good idea of where it's going, training up and down.
I have a couple questions.
Yeah.
Remind me again, is it in-person interview when they do the survey?
So we do our survey is in class. The only one we didn't do this year was 7th grade. So we brought the 7th grade all down to student dining and separated them out. It's optional, anybody can opt out, and it's still done by Scantron. So even if I wanted to find a student, I can't. So we explain that to the kids, explain it to the parents, everybody gets a #1, #2 pencil, and if you don't want to take it, you don't have to. And we say to the students, if there's a question on there, have you ever done cocaine? If you've never done cocaine and you think it's funny just to answer yes, that's great, but we can't use that data. And we're using it just to find out more about you so that we can help them. So.
Okay. And you mentioned advisory in high school.
Yeah.
How long has that been? Okay.
We've been doing that, I believe, for 8 to 8,
I was
at
gonna
least
say,
8.
the first time I met you was when you were doing this in the summer. It was my first summer at 15, and I believe that was one of the biggest numbers that jumped out as far as not having an adult
Yes.
to have contact with.
Yeah.
And it's also part of one of the questions that NASC asks
Yes.
schools always every 10 years they do their review, and because of that kind of right in your face number that was much lower than we hoped, that's when they started working on the advisory period in high school. So that was by 2015 or 16.
It's at least 10 years.
Okay. And the feedback from that. So there's a curriculum that is followed during that time.
Yes.
So they do the that's on half days.
Yes, it's a 40-minute block.
Okay.
And there's about 8 students
And it's
per
different
one
from the
adult.
homeroom.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Some students will have their homeroom teacher, but others have somebody totally different in the building that they've never met.
Yeah. Okay. liked when you were talking about the difference, and it's fun because I had an 11th grader and a 9th grader last year. So it's fun to think of the numbers with people's faces. But when you talk about, we came up with conflict resolution first, I think, but I think it is important to revisit some of these concepts towards the later grades, right? Because when you're 17, it's very different to learn about conflict resolution than when you're 13, 12 and 13. So I'm pleased to hear that that's part of what is going on. I think 11th grade is, having just looked at it with 2, it's brutal. I'm not surprised that they're saying that they're stressed about time and getting good grades. There's a lot of pressure put on the kids and to try to do it all during that year. It's repeated over and over again, starting in 9th grade, how important junior year is. And I think that might be part of what to look at too, is like the general messages, right? Because starting in 3rd grade, you're told about how different middle school is, and you better get ready for middle school. And it's like, well, just let them be in 6th grade, right? And not keep scaring them. And then the only other thing I would say is I would love to start to see simple changes made as far as even just outside time. Like, it would be great if some of these literacy classes were outside. Their mental health is not doing well, and that goes way beyond a class period that you talk about conflict resolution, right? It's about how are we setting up their days and using what we have available to us, like reading time every Friday. That contributes to positive mental health, right? So what else can we do that are simple, easy changes, not necessarily huge curriculum ones, but can we take a walk around the building once? I've been so excited about some of my kids' high school teachers this year, and because they know I'm into this, so they come home, guess what? We took a walk around the building today. Guess what? We sat and just breathed for 5 minutes before class. Like, that can happen all the time.
Again, going back to COVID, one of the positives was we kind of had forced outside times for people to
But now
get
it's
fresh
shut
air.
down. And it's used as a punishment. If the seniors don't clean up the picnic tables properly, they can't get outside the next year. It's a simple thing. Other area towns are letting all 4 years of high school be outside.
So one of the good things.
Yeah.
So at least 80% of our kids are physically active. That's in the YRBS too. So we know our kids are getting physical activity. I would agree with you, Lauren. I think there's so many things that we can do in the school community. I think we do our best. I think a lot of it too is partnering. I think you see this with parents and guardians and adults in their lives. What are we all doing as adults to demonstrate healthy skills and practicing those skills in front of our students? So I think it's both, a combination. Because I think mental health issues and concerns are happening not just with kids, not just with teens, but it's an epidemic as far as the entire country goes.
Yeah.
So when you have someone at home who's not demonstrating those skills to you, it's really challenging for those kids to learn those skills. So, if we could do health 24/7, it'd be great for me.
Yeah, me too, yeah.
I have a quick comment and maybe the $1,000,000 question. One thing I don't hear you mention throughout this and didn't hear from the group that has that new 6th grade thing is building self-confidence. And I know that that's built into, everyone will say it's built in, to all the standards and whatnot. But I, as a parent and as just a human on this planet, in talking with other people, I feel like the number one thing is that I hear from parents and even adults is like, I wish I felt better about myself. And I wish I had more self-confidence. And I feel like when people are confident, they make better choices. And there's not as much conflict because they are confident enough to step away from something that makes them uncomfortable, and they're not in fear of not being included or being bullied or being, this or that. I would love to see more focus on that directly. Maybe at the younger age. I know a couple years ago when we implemented that mental health thing with Amy and the program with Patrick O'Connor, that was one of the conversations that we had is what are we doing directly to build self-confidence? And that looks different for everybody, of course, right? And all kids are different, all adults are different. So I was just curious
Can I
what your
answer you?
perspective is,
Yes.
on that, your professional opinion.
Yeah,
Let me have it.
I thoroughly agree.
Yeah.
And so we have actually embedded that within our elementary health program. We talk about self-esteem, self-confidence, self-concept. What is it? What does it mean and how do we improve it? And then in grade 6, 7, and 8, we talk about positive self-statements. What are they? Create them and say them. In grade 9, they start every single lesson with a gratitude prompt. And in that gratitude prompt, we're looking at things that you are grateful for. Why are you grateful for it? And why are you so special just because you're you? And then we do the same thing in grade 11, focusing again on, we talk about self-care overall. And one part of that is creating positive self-statements. And then they have a 30-day challenge. And they actually have to create a specific SMART goal around that. And it's usually around self-care and mental health issues. And we have a lot of our students that created their goal around positive self-statements and making sure that they say them to themselves at least 3 times a day. They were super specific about what time they were going to be and set a timer in their phone. And we just did the reflection on that. And I will tell you, it was amazing for the students that did it, and they spoke about that today. So,
When did elementary
That was what, 20?
About 4 years ago.
Okay, I'd be curious to see what the impact of that is
we
for
are
those
too.
students
So
that started that program
yeah, so-
early.
Yeah. So what happened with that, though, Laura, is that we started it, and then we got hit with COVID.
Yeah.
And then we switched teachers. So this is our second year with Amy Madden, and the second year with grades 1, 2, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So give me a little time, okay? But give me
Time
on that
granted.
one. No, because I will
amazing.
honestly tell you, so Amy
Yeah.
Madden comes from a different background, in case you don't know. So she was a school adjustment counselor for years. So this is her. This is her niche. This is what she
Awesome.
does. Talking about emotions, talking about feelings, talking about who you are and who you want to be and why. So, and we're still like just fine tuning it, but I will tell you, she is amazing.
She has Winnie, right?
Pardon?
Is that Winnie the dog?
She has, Gianna.
Who has Winnie?
Winnie is,
Winnie's
one of
here.
my- Winnie's here.
Okay, I'm like, I know Winnie's somewhere. Okay.
Oh, that's your
Winnie's
dog, yeah.
there. Where's Winnie?
Mrs. Lynch in the back?
Yeah, I just wanted to throw one comment from the middle school perspective. Typically on national data, just to kind of give you an idea, grades 6 and 7 have the highest percentage typically when it comes to have you ever been bullied. And how safe kids feel is definitely our primary goal when we come in here as administrators. And we emphasize that in social emotional learning, things like confidence, to our teachers when we share best practices. We're continually looking at programs that we can do, like I'm just thinking of Start With Hello from Sandy Hook that we ran for an actual week last month, and each day had a specific activity. It was all about making others feel welcome and included. So, because I know if you're not in the middle school and you see those numbers for grade 7, that might be jarring. You know, students feeling comfortable here, being tolerant of others, recognizing that everybody is different, and that's okay. We all bring something different to the table. I almost feel like that's something that we share daily. And I mean, there's a lot of things that go into making sure the building is safe, like our presence in the building and where we are every minute of the day, the messages and the values that we convey to students. So I just wanted to let people know that, you know, that making sure that students, especially in these 3 years, which are rather difficult for pre-adolescents, that's something that's a priority for us.
So I can also say too, as far as that feeling safe or unsafe in school, that's just a point of reference on that day. So we had a couple of years ago, I don't know if you remember, that 2 days after we had an incident at the high school, we asked that question, and that number was high. So you could have had a lockdown practice, there could have been a fire drill, there could have been a number of different things that was their point of reference for that day. So again, we look at trends across the board.
Yeah, I just had a question. The slide that had the question about an adult to talk to in the building,
Yes.
it showed 7th grade was at 54%. How
Yes.
does that relate to year past? Do you know
It's
offhand?
consistent.
Okay.
Go right ahead.
All right, first one, maybe, as far as feeling safe, have you seen an increase in feeling safe since the resource officers in schools?
That's a great question. Have I seen a difference in that number? Not really, no. Not that I know of, Rich. I would have to go back and really look at it. The presence in the high school, we've had a resource officer for a long time, so I don't know that that impacted them. I would have to look at that middle school number for you more specific.
And elementary too. Oh, but no.
Yeah, kind of, yeah.
And then the feeling safe question, is that for threats within or external threats? Or is it just the general, do you feel safe?
In school, it said, do you feel unsafe in school? Feel safe in school.
But in school, from
Spec-
a threat from the outside, threat, or just
So
being
that's
in
the other
building?
thing too, Rich, is we don't give that much information with the question. The question is more generic.
Okay.
So in order for us to go back, I would have to ask specific questions about safety to get deeper on that. I would tell you, I don't know that that question warrants it. I think we need to really look at that information a little bit more. We might want to see if we can pull out, is it gender-based? Is it a grade-based? We could do that.
Okay. Just curiosity. And then there's a couple things that I don't know what they mean in 2023. What is bullying in 2023 compared to?
What is what?
Being bullied in 2023 compared to in the 80s when we went to school.
Oh, good question. So I'm going to assume we're around the same age. So when we were in high school and someone made fun of you, you just either told them to stop, smacked them upside the head, gave them a shove, right?
Yeah.
And you went home and you never talked about it again.
Yeah.
It was over. Our kids have a clear definition of what bullying it is. So it's when somebody repeatedly, so it's more than once, so I make fun of you, you tell me to stop, and yet I do it again. And then it continues, even though you've been told to stop. The difference is our kids, when they leave here, are bombarded with that information on their phone. It doesn't stop. When you went home, it stopped. When you went home, Susie Lou, who's mom, wasn't calling your mom to tell you what happened. Now we have parents that are part of it. We have other students that have gotten involved in it because there's so much easy access. Does it make it bad or worse? Better? I don't know. Do we have kids that are probably easier targets because of social media? Yes.
Is there a question asked on, sorry to interrupt you, is there a question asked on the survey of our kids of who is on social media? If they're on social media, or do we just assume the most important?
No, we assume we're most often.
You still have a question?
Was that another one? Hey,
No, it's fine.
great mind, go ahead.
So sad or hopeless, right, and I'm assuming that plays into the suicide question. Right. And is there a difference between considering and trying?
Yes.
And do you ask both questions?
We say considering and creating a plan. So
Yeah.
sad or hopeless is the definition. It's the way the question is asked. It's for 2 or more weeks. So
Okay.
that's the clinical definition of depression. So, but again, it's self-reported. So I'm saying I felt sad or hopeless. I didn't get a diagnosis of depression. So it doesn't say depression, it says felt sad or hopeless. Then the next question says, did you create a plan? So they've created a plan, they've thought about it. They're more concrete, but the other question is considered suicide, really thought about it, but didn't have a plan to do it.
Okay.
And I think Lauren could probably be better
Yeah,
at
you
explaining.
asked the second question because it's sometimes, unfortunately, part of our language to say, oh my God, I failed that time, I don't want to kill myself. You know, so you ask more about considering and creating planning because that's a different level. You just said, have you ever thought about suicide, if you ever killed yourself? And say, oh yeah, my parents want to fight, and I'm not kill myself. But that's very different than creating a plan.
Good.
Anything else?
Are we teaching the kids to be resilient?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, but I would also tell you that mental health, in some ways, I think it's great that our kids are talking about this. And actually, in a lot of ways, I think it's a positive thing that they're able to voice it and say it. They're not hiding behind it. They're willing to come out. They're willing to get help. They're willing to find, get resources around it, to contact people. That's a positive. We're not saying, we're not hiding it. It's out there. You know, today's Mental Health Awareness Day, we're worldwide, so I think it's
Stigma is way down.
way down.
Yeah.
You're not crazy. You
No.
have a mental health issue.
And we have elementary students who are much more aware of these events when they occur, and they know when it should happen, when it should not happen, and they speak out to it, and might add to the numbers that might not have been identified 10, 15 years ago, but I want those numbers. I need those numbers so that we can put in systems that help those students that overcome those challenges when they arise.
I would say though, and I'll get your question, Kendra, I do believe strongly that we need to raise students that are much more resilient than they currently are. And that's a partnership with families, parents, guardians, and the schools. It's not us doing it on our own. I can teach you resiliency till this guy comes in.
Well, that's the question, because I know my experience going to school, but I was just never everybody else, right? So I just don't be,
It's different.
that's why I asked the question.
Kendra?
Thank you for what you do. You do a
Oh,
great job.
thanks, Rich. I appreciate it.
I guess I have a follow-up question, and maybe,
Sure.
Mrs. Kemet, maybe it's a team question, but back to the 7th grade and 54%, so that's in my mind, okay, half. So half the kids have an adult in the building that they can go to, and the other half don't. My middle school teacher brain activates, and is advisory something that was ever considered at Ernest Brook? Like that was something way back when I was a middle school teacher, we had advisory, and I had 8 girls that were, once a week we met and did a whole bunch of silly things or whatever, but it was great. We formed a really great bond, and I was just wondering if that's something that was ever considered at the middle school
So can I answer for her?
Yeah.
So one thing I think we really need to do, and I believe this is in the strategic plan, is to look at that number. How do we work with our teachers, faculty, because it's not just teachers.
No, agreed.
It's
Yeah.
everyone across the board when you walk into this building. How do we make sure we're building relationships with kids? And for years, we focused so much on social emotional learning, and then COVID happened, and everything else happened after that. And I believe that we've done a much better job embedding social emotional learning into our teaching. But I think this is something, Kendra, that we do need to come back to, and I think we need to revisit, do we add an advisory to the middle school? If we are really doing advisory at the high school, why are those numbers so low? So how do we really look at this and evaluate that and talk about other things that maybe we could do, or maybe it's making new faculty more aware of what this number means. How do we get that number out there, and what do we put that to everybody else?
And I agree that it's not, again, I default from my own past experience at my former school that's not in Marshfield. When we had advisory, every adult in the building had a group. Our custodians had a group.
Yes.
All of our paras had a group. Every adult in the building at that time had 8 students. No one had to make a lesson plan. It was all given to us, and it was, at first the kids didn't like it, but by a couple months into the school year, we had a lot of fun, and all of those kids knew that at any time that one adult was someone they could go to.
I agree with you. I think it's something that we could look at.
Oh, I agree wholeheartedly. I said that to Lisa over here, and that number always gets me for some reason, because when I deal with students, if they're upset about something, if it's disciplinary, I ask them who their person is. Who's your person in school? I can tell you who I think your daughter should go to.
I know who they are.
I do too, but and they're probably aligned, but each student has a different, sometimes their needs are different.
Yeah.
And there are times when I'm their student, their person, and there are times I am definitely not that kid's person. And we do ask that, but I do think that, and I said that to Lisa, I said maybe we look at how we can do that. We might be able to do it slightly different from the high school, because we have that wind block, and there's lots of opportunities within that time, and that's every day. So, but I took a picture of that one slide, because I said to Lisa, at the next faculty meeting, or maybe even smaller groups, I want to look at that number, because some of the other numbers obviously get, but this one always gets my attention the most. I'm a mom, and when my kids, whether they went to kindergarten or school or college, or their first job, I want to know who they go to lunch with, and who do you go to when you're upset? We all have our people, and I think that's really important.
And every student connects to a different person.
Yes,
in a different way.
absolutely.
It's not a one size fits all.
And sometimes
so
they
it's
need a backup
tricky.
person.
Mhm.
So,
Can I ask a question just about what kind of information is gathered about the students when they take the survey? Do you just, what grade it is, or do we break it down by gender? Are we able to break it down by, just thinking about, obviously it's very important to have all this information on every single student, but, if they're being bullied for certain reasons, is it 60% of the people who report being bullied, are they women? Are they, is a certain percentage of them identify as Jewish?
We actually don't ask religion. We do ask their age, so it's not by grade, it's by age. Gender, male, female. And then the other one is and they don't want to respond, I believe is how we left it. I forget how it's worded, but there's an option. They don't want to identify as male or female. It might be non-binary. Or gender neutral, maybe, is one of those terms. I just don't want to say which one it is. I'm not positive.
So you'd be able to tell that there's a certain amount of bullying to those students who don't identify with that gender disproportionate.
But for the time and age one, we're just looked at it as a number. We have this many students. Why?
Yeah.
What's our why?
Right.
It doesn't matter who you are.
No,
We want
absolutely.
all our students.
Absolutely. Any other questions, comments?
Thank you. Thank you.
Just a big thank you.
Yeah,
And,
thank you
again,
so much.
This data is also, we talked about during the strategic plan that we get to sit in on, to be a part of. I mean, YRBS data was some of the stuff that we looked at. We had 1,000 pieces of data that were assessed by the different groups. And it's important. And when they numbers improve, it's great, but it's a lot of work to make those improvements. But it's also, we can't stop trying to find ways to make improvements. I'm thinking when we're talking about self-confidence, like ropes courses. I remember when I was teaching 35 years ago, the ropes courses that they used to have over in Hull High School, and we were climbing up the side of the school. Even me was like afraid of heights. I think 5 feet up off the ground, put a helmet on and climbed up the rope and went up the side of the building like that, man. And it was like a huge thing. And if those are the types of things that we can do, like so. I know you talk about it at school, and all of our teachers will bring up ideas at all levels, but when there's things that you think might work, let us know. Because that's so much what we want to do. I know it's so much what this group here wants to support, and we are aiming for anything that's going to help our kids feel better. If they don't feel good, it's pretty simple. They're not going to. So,
The gender question is male, female, non-binary, prefer to self-describe, prefer not to answer. There's 5, there's the minutes of that. We still ask that, how do you describe your grades?
Yeah.
In school, that's.
How do you describe that?
Grades.
And it says mostly A's, mostly B's, mostly C's.
And then your answer mostly is.
we're talking about.
Thank you all.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay. Moving on next, we're going to go to the FY25 capital budget, and I'll turn it on over to you, Mr. Miller.
I need this one. So in your packet, you have a draft version of the a draft version of the fiscal 25 to fiscal 29 capital planning program. This is the worksheet we have to fill out for the town capital budget committee every year. Just to recap, last year we received $300,000 for 255 Furnace, the new preschool, new early education center, and as well as just over $300,000 for the Daniel Webster gymnasium floor. Both those projects are completed. The gymnasium floor came in under budget, so we expect to be able to return some of those funds to the town, and hopefully some of those funds will be used to fund some of these projects that we're presenting this evening. 255 was a little more than 300,000, but we made it work. So that being said, 2025, 2029 presents, each year we look at this under a new lens. The first one on this list, this is not necessarily in prioritized order at the moment. It's There is priorities on the left-hand side that we've labeled 1 and 2. So the number 1 priorities will be the ones we would be looking to have funded by the town this year. First one, project number 1 is the South River School, the accessibility at South River. Last year, this was 2.1 million, 2.19 million on our capital budget plan, and that was a number derived from the capital planning, the townwide capital assessment that was done almost 10 years ago now. But that included every single aspect of accessibility in that building. And when you think about it, it starts to, it's a lot more than what is being addressed here. But we saw a direct need to accomplish a couple things immediately. This is broken down into 2 phases. The first phase, this is all documented in the packet as well. The first phase, which is only $168,000 for this fiscal year, or next year for this town meeting, addresses building a ramp at the front of the school to allow for, to get rid of the egress to help with the egress that we currently have, as well as designing the full plans for a 2-story elevator for the building. The second part, 765, is the construction of that elevator. So, 2-plan process. We've worked with Fisher Associates, the architects. Fred Russell had done a lot of that work, working with them. So, really, the front entry design is the main thing we would like to accomplish for next school year over the summer. The whole complete architect's report is in the folder. The next project is emergency paving curbing, and this is, as anybody who's been on the committee for a while knows, we've had down the bottom of the capital planning program was $600,000, $500,000 at each school to address paving and curbing at each of our schools. That also came from the capital assessment report of 10 years ago. We were able to do a significant portion of Governor Winslow through capital. But what we did for this go around is really look at our main issues. We have a bunch of issues around the district. The Martinson teacher lot near the track next to Martinson is falling apart. So there's Daniel Webster has some issues right as you pull into the school. The other Martinson teacher lot is warped and becomes a lake and freezes in the winter. So part of that is creating that and making that much more accessible and really rectifying any of those issues. So it's not only Martinson and Daniel Webster, but finishing off what we need to do at Governor Winslow, some pieces at Ames Way, the Ventress South River area, maybe expanding the parking a little bit more at central office, and then Marshfield High School, looking at seal coating that area and potentially reconfiguring the parking lot and the entrance and exits over there too. We just started the process of talking about that. So, and that led to talking about next year and dismissal and a whole bunch of things that need to get settled relatively soon. So all that information is also in the packet. It's a significant amount of money, but it's at each school we're talking $143,000 at Governor Winslow, $113,000 at Ames Way, $167,000 at Martinson, $21,000 at the Ventress, $58,000 at Daniel Webster, and then $62,000 at the high school. So it's really hitting what we need to hit, and really kind of hopefully putting that aside for now, because the last thing we want to talk about is paving and curbing. So rather much hit more important things like number 3, technology, Marshfield High School, and Furnace Brook. Working with Dave Cawthorn, 10 years. The new high school's been open for 10 years. The projectors, a lot of the the teacher workstations, a lot of it. There's a myriad of things that are hitting their end of life. And all the details and quotes and estimates are in the packet. It was broken up over a 3-year period because it's close to $1 million. So we're hopeful we can address some of the more significant pieces immediately and have a 3-year plan to accomplish that. A little bit of work here at Furnace Brook as well. Some laptops and a few other things at Furnace Brook as well. But solid plan, still continuing to work with Dave to formulate a entire capital budget technology plan for the entire district. That's something that's a little overdue, but we're going to get there, and we've done a good job over the last few years utilizing our grant funding to keep up our pace, but we're hopeful as that funding runs out that we can utilize our capital budget. We've gone to capital before for technology, and hopefully we'll get approval for that as well. So number 4 are our 2 signs out in front of the high school over here on 139 and on Forest Street, replacing the light bright boards, for lack of a better term. So much like the signage that was done by Building Better,
Building something special?
Building something special, jeez.
Aren't you on the board?
The name changed a few times. Building something special. The board for the stadium, similar boards that would replace the failing boards that we currently have out there. So it's $73,200 is the estimate. The boards are actually a little less than that. There would be some masonry work that would need to be done to lift the boards and replace.
How many of them?
The one out here and one out here. And we did get estimates potentially of placing, there's a potential that we could move the one on 139 over here.
She really wants it.
No,
We have making letters every day.
I know.
Every day I have to make we have to make
But-
letters.
Yeah, so we do have an estimate for that as well.
Thank
We have
you.
that as well, and we're gonna look at the whole package and decide what we're gonna, so it's not just the high school,
Okay.
it is also Furnace Brook.
That's not gonna be on this number.
Yes.
It does say.
And it does say right up there.
It does, it does.
It's little
I
font.
did put it up
My
there.
eyes caught
Thank you,
it.
Sean.
Oh, yeah, no, I got you.
So that's something that would be very noticeable, and obviously create a better, a lot better signage, and Ms. Mazursky will be a lot happier too. Just leave it at that. Number 5, this came up recently, was approached by Bob Battis, who's been working at the Martinson, about what can we do to reinvigorate the Martinson Auditorium. So we did the Furnace Brook Auditorium probably 6, 7, 8 years ago. There's a few different things that would be done. A new rug, new upholstering of the seating, lighting, a whole bunch of different things. All the estimates are included. So that's just pulling that auditorium, bringing that auditorium up to some sort of respectability. It's decent right now, but it definitely needs a refresher. So
If you sit in the seats, you notice that there are some seats that are comfy and some seats that,
it's a hodgepodge. Some art experience in there that probably spent some time there. So that's we only have 3 auditoriums in the district. Martinson's utilized a lot as that 3rd auditorium, so that could go a long way to making that space much more comfortable and much more inviting for anybody looking to rent the spot or rent the facility. So all those estimates are there. And then project number 6, the cafeteria tables at Furnace Brook. And Ms. Kemet is very hopeful that this can be done. We kind of, I don't want to say it's nobody's fault. We kind of missed the boat on the COVID piece, because when COVID hit, we bought new tables for 3 of our elementary schools, but new tables was not what we were looking for COVID. Once we came out of COVID, we needed new tables. So we with the funding mechanism, in retrospect, well, we wouldn't have had anywhere to put them. It's a little bit of a just a timing issue, but they're definitely needed. Definitely needed after all the changes we went through the last few years. And if you have any questions, Kevin would be happy to answer. But so those are our 6 priority number ones. Obviously, they total 1.4 million. We've never had that amount funded previously in one year. I think we're hopeful that we can get a little bit more out of capital budget this year. At the special town meeting this come next week, there really isn't anything directly. I mean, there's a little bit of money for facilities for the schools, but other than that, there's nothing school related on that warrant. So we're really going to push for capital to fund hopefully a significant amount of that 1.4 million. So. Just really quickly on some of the other items, the Martinson roof is still there. We'll be submitting another statement of interest. There's still the possibility that there's a solar project that could help significantly fund that project, but we're still going along both scenarios with the MSBA and solar. The Daniel Webster flooring is on there that will need to be done within the next few years timeframe. That's the last school with a significant amount of the old tiles that need to be replaced. Bump this back a little bit, but the continuation of, just to make the numbers a little more flat, but we air conditioned the wing, the second floor wing at Furnace Brook, and we would like to continue to eventually, hopefully, make this building all air conditioned, similar to Marshfield High School.
Really make Furnace Brook people happy.
I didn't just add that just right now because I was coming here, but no. So that's a number there that we're going to continue to work on, and it'll move as we adjust annually. But that's something we're definitely looking at as a district. That number 10 is the final 2014 capital assessment piece that's directly from there. It says wood structure repair. It's really a lot of interior work at 3 of our older buildings in the classrooms, and so that's been on there a while. We talking about the strategic plan. There's a component in there that has a bit of this, taking our older facilities and really our classroom spaces and bringing them up to the 22nd century. I say it like, you still, the custodians at each building do a great job, but there's still some classrooms you walk into at some of those, mainly at South River and Ames Way, where it's still 1950, late 50s. So some of that work is part of that. But that's a ways off. Hopefully that's part of a bigger plan that's formulated as part of the strategic plan. And then the Daniel Webster roof would be the second roof in the district that we need to look at after the Martinson project is funded and completed. So all told, it's about $13.5 million. Again, not in order of priority, outside of the 1 and 2s that we're really going to push forward for this year. So I know on the agenda it says vote. We don't necessarily have to vote this evening. This needs to go to the town by November 1st. So we do have a couple more meetings coming up. So it doesn't necessarily have to be voted this evening. And then after that, we'll have the capital budget subcommittee meet. We'll gather with the town capital budget committee and look at this and hopefully get a significant portion of that 1.4 funded for next year.
Go right ahead.
So the first one, the accessibility itself, right, that was built 1952, which predates the AAB and the ADA. Is there any federal or state money for that?
Sorry.
Since it predates both the AAB and the ADA, AAB was what, 1968?
Yeah, it's mentioned in the architect's report that because it's all kind of grandfathered because the building is old, but and that's why we, unfortunately, why we haven't addressed some of these issues, or haven't had to. But I think it's time to make that front.
Yeah, not that I'm opposed to.
Oh, no, I know
No,
exactly
no,
what you're
no,
saying.
I know what your question is. I think
Yeah.
because of that, though, because of the fact that we are quote unquote grandfathered in, unless we were to change the footprint of the building by about 25%.
Yeah, there has to be
There's
significant.
not, I don't know if we would qualify for any grants because by their rules, whether it makes sense or not, we don't have to make these changes. So,
That's where I was going with this.
Yeah.
So this is really a nice to have, not a have to have.
but I would,
There's no regulatory.
I would think, no, you're right, absolutely right.
From a regulatory standpoint.
Right.
Not that we don't.
But from a human standpoint, yeah, right, and then we're on the same page here. We have,
Yeah,
it's our only multi-level building.
Access from.
yeah.
No.
Yeah, so, I'm just thinking in terms of prioritization, not that we don't want to do this, but, you know, we're getting 300K total, maybe, from capital.
And I mean, we've had anywhere from 250 to 500.
Yeah, we're gonna find that out and get a rough idea. of
Right,
where
so the
we're-
paving curving, I mean, that's a rolled up number, but that's broken down by school.
That's something that could be broken up if necessary. I mean,
Governor Winslow's in that number, didn't that just get repaid? Didn't Governor Winslow just get
Not the
repaid?
whole thing.
Yeah, not the whole thing. We had funding, we didn't finish off the,
Half paid.
Okay.
paving's expensive.
Yeah, and the technology.
Find out
Sure
very
is.
quickly.
Sure is.
But Mrs. Hudson, like, Mrs. Sutton's credit, she wanted to focus on the areas where the students were,
Yep.
rather than the lot
Parking
where
Yeah,
everybody was
I
parked.
haven't been there since it was all ripped up.
Yeah, no, the front looks great.
Go check it out.
A lot of the areas look great, but there's still some work to be done.
Okay, so technology, I've been waiting, what, 10 years now, or 9 years for this sustainability plan for that? Because we weren't going to have to shell out 300K a year. Was how-
Well, I mean, we've been, there are things that have been replaced there.
No, I get it, but the way it was presented initially, before we went to I mean, the part, you know, that we wouldn't have to kick extra money into this. It was
Yeah.
part of the build of the high school, and we would never have to, the way it was presented,
Yeah,
we would never
yeah.
have to put another middle to it.
Well, the goal was and still is to have a significant number for technology in our operating budget, which we don't. So that's the piece. If we had a significant number for technology in operating, we wouldn't have to bring this to capital budget.
Yeah,
I know exactly what you're saying now.
I still haven't seen a plan.
The,
It shows up as a number, like, when all of this was put in, I asked for a plan, sustainability. And now we're just, you know, it's like, okay, we're gonna throw 300K at it next year. Following year, we're gonna throw 300K at it.
well, yeah, I mean, it was,
I'm not,
no, I know
I'm not
exactly what
figuring
you're
you,
saying.
this was just
That,
a
you know, it's
question
10
I
years down the road, a lot of,
you
and I'm
asked the
sure
same
Dave,
question too.
is that,
You asked the same question.
oh, yeah, way back when,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, we sort of, there is, I'd have to, I did ask Dave to kind of formulate something like that, just for the next few years. But we knew going in that a lot of this was going to come end of life and was going to have to be replaced, so, this is a
I
solution.
just
at this
wanna,
point.
I don't wanna end up like going with it, right?
Yeah, well, Dave came from Williams, so he knows full well, he lived that, so. And he's been saying it all on himself, so.
Okay. Digital signage, are we restricted by town bylaws in terms of size?
A little bit, yes, yeah, you can't have anything moving, So the definition of moving is a little vague, because I think you've gone through town and you can see some things
Like
moving.
flapping in the wind.
Yeah. So, I mean, you can't have constant movement. I mean, you can have something that scrolls and changes every once in a while, like, you know, like kind of like what the new board is doing out there.
I was even thinking the surface of the sign itself. The size of
Sure,
the
the size of it.
The height of it.
Yeah. I mean, they're not gonna be any bigger than what's out there now, but they could be raised a little bit. So,
Any other questions?
How old is Daniel Webster?
Yep.
How old is Daniel
He
Webster?
was born in like
School. Thanks, Sean.
58 years old.
64, 63?
65.
It's in, it's,
Total
They
two
just
years
put it on
old.
the gym floor.
What's the oldest elementary school? That's actually-
Sumner.
Is it Sumner?
yeah. Sumner was 1950, and then 2 years later, they put another part of the building. Yeah, that's how quickly the population was
That's
exploding.
interesting.
65 for Daniel Webster.
65. So Governor Winslow's around there too, a little bit, a couple years later. Amesway's 1960. And then Martinston obviously renovated fully, so I think that was 1960, about the same time, 64. So we have buildings that are, you
And
know,
would
up there.
kind of piggybacking off of that, would this be the first time the Daniel Webster roof has been addressed?
No, actually, it's in 1984. It was replaced, I don't know. Honestly, I don't think anybody of us know
40 years
exactly
ago,
what happened.
35, 40 years
It was done about 25 years into its life,
Gotcha.
and then and
That
obviously
makes sense,
it needs to be done again, so.
Gotcha. Any other questions or comments? I'm comfortable moving on this tonight. I don't know if folks have questions for Mr. Miller.
Well, I do have one more question,
Go ahead.
and I'm ready to move on tonight too. So is the plan that we go to capital budget and see what we can approve for funding and
Correct.
choose projects?
Yeah. So what we'll do is, we'll hear from the town that there's no treasurer, no accountant right now, so I think they're looking at, I'm not sure if anybody knows exactly how much funding is going to be available. It's all based upon the town's, so it's based upon free cash available and the town's borrowing capacity. So if the town believes we can incur $400,000 in interest debt, then we can borrow up to that debt limit, and that's set each year. So that falls into, we have $1.4 million in requests. The DPW may have $2.4 million, and police and fire are going to have their requests. Everybody has requests, and the way town capital budget looks at it, they look at it as the town as a whole, and kind of proportion that way. So we typically don't find out. We typically don't end up meeting with them until January, February.
So as far as picking the plan, once we set the budget, the superintendent's charge will spend, right? Does it come back to the committee for the projects?
For
These days.
this, no, so what's gonna happen is, so when we meet with them, we're probably gonna know our number by that point, and then we work with them to this is the way it works most years, is we work with them to determine our amount. So they might get a number that is 800,000 schools, and then budget subcommittee will take a look at it, and obviously we'll come back to the full committee, and we can reprioritize if necessary.
Yeah, was that?
That's what it is.
Yeah.
Chunks too,
Yeah.
per the quotes.
Any other questions or comments? Folks comfortable moving on this tonight?
Motion approved.
Motion to approve the capital budget for FY '25 through '29. Plan is presented by Mr. Moore. Second made by Ms. Stetson. All those in favor, please signify by raising your hand, saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining? Thank you very much.
Thank you again.
Last item on our agenda tonight before we move on to the meeting minutes is the superintendent search process update. This will not be a 15-minute update that it says it will be on the agenda. Just very quickly for you folks, you all have a little handout here that I brought you from Mass Association of School Committees. This kind of lays out the process. And Ms. Pazarski worked with Mr. Granatino to create like a draft brochure that we can hand out or disseminate to candidates who may be interested. And that's something that Mass Association of School Committees will work very closely with us on, because they have just a massive list.
What they'll do is when we post a position with MASC, they handle, like, people will go there, they'll see, we'll post it on our site and on our hiring site, but it'll be on the MASC website, and they have a list, if you ever go there, executive searches, and they'll have different superintendents that are open. Melrose is open now, 2 or 3 that they're running, but they'll have like a brochure, so people can read up about the community. 25,000 people, blah, 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 $55 million budget, 7 schools, 8 schools now, early childhood center, all that info, and then there'll be an application. It's kind of a generic application that they have, and all of those applications go to MASC. We don't have to sit here and collect them, sort them out. It all goes to them, and they do all that stuff for us, part of it. But the brochure and the app are things that are pretty standard for each of the schools that are listed. So we just need to finalize the brochure. You have a good draft of it, and the timeline as well. The timeline, if you look at that, because it is in your folder, the timeline is not exactly. Those are dates that were in the nominal search or the searches. So he gave us, like Kuchar gave Sean, kind of a ballpark set of dates to go by if we want to have a hiring deadline until January. So those numbers will probably be put into this document that we have here. The other thing that we put together was a quick survey to try to generate interest in the search committee. Those people that want to be on the search committee, whether you're a staff member, whether you're an administrator, whether you're a student, whether you're a parent, guardian, community member at large, they'll have the chance to submit their name to express their interest, and those will come in, we'll collect them, express hello, great. I think that is the 2 representatives, I think, getting the school committee, determine who will be on that.
Yes. We're looking at having a 13-member committee, which is a good number.
So that might be going out the next day or 2, and then having people express their interest.
The hope is to get that out tomorrow, correct?
Yeah, we can do that, and then hopefully by next week, have an idea of who wants to be on it, and then it gets determined, and once the committee set, hopefully we're moving forward with the posting as well. Get the ball rolling.
Yep.
Get me out of here.
So,
I know.
hold off.
Sundays.
So I ask you to just look through this when you have a chance over the next few days. Give me a call if you have questions about it. We're getting to a point where this is getting very real. So we're going to start, Ms. Brayton and I are going to sit down with Mr. Valentino and kind of hammer out a schedule. And tomorrow, the survey will go out, and we'll start getting folks interested. I did receive an inquiry from a parent who was interested in the process, and emailed me yesterday just to ask when things were going to get going, and I let them know that they'll be getting going this week. So it's exciting.
Maybe good for all of us to look at our calendars for November, December, like I know I'm traveling for work for a week, so I'll
Just send
email
me
you
those
the
dates.
dates.
Yes,
but
thank you. Yeah, if anybody else is traveling, just let me know. And put that together. But again, the goal is to have this done with the new superintendent announced mid-January. So, there we go. Any questions or comments? Okay.
And just so everybody knows, because this has been asked a couple times, people say, "Or are you going to be on the committee?" I am not part of the search committee, and that's very common. I mean,
He's
have an
certainly
administrator.
helping with the administrative
Yeah,
stuff, like
I'm
getting
doing
this
the busy
together.
work
but,
behind the scenes,
there's-
That Scott was involved too.
Right, just kind of getting all of that together.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Right, yeah, that's what it's like here as well. And Mrs. Pazarski obviously won't be on the selection committee, but will be helping out with the tons. So thank you.
Already done.
What was the date of the meeting?
Hasn't
Hasn't been said.
But it'll sometime in January.
January.
Yeah. Because if we have the 3 finalists, picked by the selection committee, say mid-December, right before the holiday, we'll probably be beginning of January. You guys can vote next meeting after that.
Awesome.
Or
We're going to move on to meeting minutes. and then we'll do information.
Okay.
Give folks just a minute to read through those minutes once again, if you have any edits to bring those forward. Mr. Greer's made a motion to approve the meeting minutes from September 26th. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Ms. Stetson. All those in favor, please signify by raising your hand saying aye. Aye. Opposed, abstaining, 401. Okay, we'll move on to informational. Mr. Granatino.
Okay. I'm standing between this meeting and over. I will be quick. Homecoming, again, as mentioned earlier, huge success. The way that was set up from everybody, from the games split up between Friday and Saturday. You had volleyball, soccer Friday night. You had volleyball and football on Saturday. You had the soccer teams playing. Friday night, you had boosters out there raising money for their respective groups. It was just well done by everybody involved. I know Kate Tracy and Keith Love did a bunch in preparing for the dance. Again, just so you know, this is really important, I think, for everybody out there. This is the first time they've had the homecoming dance in the gymnasium as opposed to the CAF. And it was the first time in my 9 years here that we didn't have to field calls from folks that are concerned about their children not being able to get into the dance, to the point where we had almost 900 students went to the dance. There's only about 1,200 students in the school, so that's a lot. That's a lot of folks. So I was really happy about that. And just all accounts, I think they had 15 to 20 chaperones and no issues. It was a lot of fun. Everyone had a great time. I guess the lights were a little too bright on the walking track, but as an administrator, I used to keep the lights on as long as they could during the so that's not all bad. I'm sure the kids didn't need it. Also, just to follow up, the Go Gold was mentioned by one of the schools, but overall, the numbers, and we had our representatives from the club, the Gold Ribbon Club, talked about it at the last meeting, but they raised $8,389.64. It's amongst all the schools, and just a great job by everybody. And that's going to South Shore Action for Hope, which fundraises for pediatric cancer research. So very excited about that. It's just getting bigger and bigger each year. And there's another event that's coming up, and it happened last spring. Didn't have a whole lot of fanfare, so the numbers weren't huge, but it was our first year. But our friends over in Situate, started an organization called the Mass Military Public Service Educational and Career Opportunities Group. Long name, I guess. I'm going to suggest a short name, but long and short of it, they bring in representatives from academies, bring in from different branches of the military, not to recruit, but more or less just to inform options that are available if students decide they want to do something military. You can see whether it's going into the service right after school, and the careers that can come out of it, other than exactly working for those branches. And they're hosting it again on November 18th at Situate High. They're trying to have folks from all over the South Shore. This is open to any school community, any student that wants to go see it, or the parent want to come see it. I saw it last year. It was really, for a small amount that showed up, it was well done. A lot of the branches, all the branches were there. I think they have folks from West Point, the Naval Academy, the Air Force Academy, the Coast Guard Academy, Mass Maritime, rescue programs, National Guard, Marine Corps, Situate Police and Fire Departments, military prep schools, the U.S. Armed Services, all be represented there. So there'll be more information coming, and I know the representative is somebody I know in Situate who's organizing. He's meeting with like the South Shore Coalition of guidance directors to kind of, because they're the best ones to feed that information out to the kids and make them aware. So again, November 18th over at Situate High School, 10 a.m. It's a Saturday. It's a great event. Again, I sent out a notice last week, as I'm sure you all saw, No Homework Veterans Day, so we're excited about that one more time. So hopefully our students will enjoy that time away from homework, but also spend some time thanking those that have served or are serving. That's a big part of what we're going to try to do. And obviously the parade and ceremony will be done on Saturday morning. And hopefully lots of folks can get there. Let's see, November 9th, I think they're finalized. The folks from South Shore Tech are going to be coming back, as they mentioned, not to talk about bringing in 8th graders and 9th graders, but to talk about the proposed building project that they're looking at. And they're going to have that informational meeting November 9th at the Selectmen's Hearing Room at 6 p.m. They'll zoom it out to folks who can't be there. They're hitting all the towns in the district to talk about the plans and what they entail, also before they get too much further along. And I think that is all. That's all I have. Thank you very much.
Dr. Martin?
Just two quick things. We did receive an additional grant of almost $174,000 for continued implementation of Bridges math at the elementary level. So that would encompass professional development, stipends, subs, just to continue most of the learning by staff members to that program. And then MCAS student reports are going home this week, just FYI to any parents out there. I'm working with Mike Rich to bring the presentation for our next meeting here, so.
Thank you very much. Ms. Squire?
I just have a quick update from CPAC that they are hosting a presentation on October 19th at 6:30 in the high school presentation center titled Navigating Aspen and Canvas for Parents and Caregivers. So they are creating kind of an interactive presentation so that parents can come with laptops, or will have laptops, and our coordinator of digital learning, Nina Bolander, will walk people through how to find things on Canvas, how to support their students at home with Canvas, how to locate things on Aspen, in a way that they get the information within the best practice. So that's happening on October 19th at 6:30.
Record that. We can do it, right?
Yes, we can maybe have.
Thank you. Mr. Miller?
Oh, I'm good.
I have a feeling you will be.
That's the
Any subcommittee reports at this time? Ms. Stetson?
Just one, I am again the chair of the Golden Mirror Collaborative Board again this year, so.
Congratulations.
Yes.
Madam Chair.
They're lucky to have you. Any other subcommittee reports at this time? No. Okay, well, we will be together 6 days from now at the special town meeting. Looking forward to that. Is there a motion to adjourn? So moved from Ms. Stetson. Is there a second? Second from Ms. Brayton and Ms. Dargan.
Thank you, Ms. Hammond.
Thank you.
That's a roll call in this position.
Yes.
Ms. Stetson.
You guys have wall?
Thank you very much,
We
folks.
have a new wall that separates the learning environment.